Hello again, those who joined, and welcome to our Neuro Halloween class. While researching on this topic, I found many interesting things, and there are so many phenomena rolled into one day that I didn't know even what to take, because there's a celebration, we know this Halloween, traditional one. There's a history, how it evolved from ancient Celtic holiday, so Wayne. Then there is a full moon night, one of the rarest occasions, a full moon that falls on Halloween, and that's on Saturday. So this kind of a full moon event coinciding with Halloween, it's been the last time in 1944. So you have many years to wait for another occasion like this. The full moon is often associated with letting go. So that there will be one of the theme in our class is letting go. But also there is another element like the pumpkin. The pumpkin is much more than an oversized vegetable, or rather it's fruit. In the kitchen it's considered a vegetable, botanically it's a fruit because it has seeds and it grows out of the flower. That's considered a fruit. So that there's a lot of involved with the magic of pumpkin and many other events and the historical and All Souls Day and why Halloween is considered such a spooky event associated with the unseen world. So many more. Probably I will leave some for next year, and today I decided to concentrate on two areas. And as always in our free classes, we will follow the sequence. It will be a short presentation. I will introduce myself, who doesn't know me yet, and those who is going to watch this video first time on YouTube. Then I'll talk a little bit about NeuroGraphica and the techniques that we need for today. Those who are not familiar, please just follow them. And then we'll start our drawing exercise as usual. And we will finish our session with a question and answer if you have any. So with this, I will just turn on my short presentation. So Halloween, letting it go and creating a safe space. So we know, everybody knows that we're using elements of NeuroGraphica. And NeuroGraphica is a simple and effective method for working with the subconscious mind through simple drawing. Simple drawing, typically abstract, and then we draw in relation. We already have a theme when we draw. And while we're communicating with the subconscious mind, it's done by using a special line, the neurographic line, and rounding the corners, intersections. So NeuroGraphica is based on the principle of neuroplasticity. It's brain's long life ability to change and organize itself in response to changing environment, so to adapt to our needs. The method of NeuroGraphica was invented and developed in 2014 by Pavel Mikhailovich Piskayov, Doctor of Psychology, personal and business coach, architect, artist, speaker, creative entrepreneur. NeuroGraphica, or also it's known in North America as neurographic art, is affordable and requires no previous experience. Affordable because we can use very simple drawing tools such as markers, like for school kids, plain paper, no need to buy anything else. Coloring pencils, I use a coloring pencil that's been since for when I studied architecture, so I use for rendering. It's been for a long time with me. But the pencils that I bought in a very cheap store. And of course, everyone can draw. There is no problem if you're able to hold the pencil in your hands. You can draw. You can draw the line and everything, and every drawing will consist of that line, the magic neurographic line. You can see some of my examples from free classes and some elements of using algorithm of NeuroGraphica, which is algorithm, it's a formula how we create our drawings. very briefly about me, I'm a full-time artist and instructor of Neurographica. I'm also a member of the Federation of Canadian Artists, and I've been practicing art, that's extempore painting and icon painting, for over 12 years, and teaching art for over 8, for over 9, actually over 9 years. Neurographic came to my life just about 2 years ago, and I embraced it because it offered amazing opportunities as a teacher. So, and I decided to become a teacher more for the love of teaching. Started considering myself not so much an artist, but as a teacher, as an instructor, educator. Well, in the past, I had a long time before that. I was working for a large real estate development company. I'm educated in building engineering, mechanical engineering, and architecture. I was also involved in construction financing. And then at the time when I decided to change my profession and become a professional writer, editor, I discovered art and I became an artist because artist was from a very early age of my life. But at that time, there was no possibilities to become an artist like it's possible to do today. My other pursuits include, of course, spiritual teaching, religious traditions. So you can see my NeuroGraphica drawings. I use NeuroGraphica as a artwork. I use extempore painting, and I still teach it. If you're interested to see my other artwork, and my website, it's lettherebelightart.com. Halloween traditions. We all know what Halloween means, and it's celebrated on this day, the 31st October. But it's much more than trick or treat or jack o' lantern. And today, this day, it combines many celebrations. Halloween origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. This day it falls between the autumn equinox and winter solstice. It marks the end of summer and the beginning of darkness. Actually, Samhain means summer ends. This was the spiritual new year for Druids and pagans, a time of reflection of what has been and envisioning what will be. They believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the two worlds become blurred. Thus, Halloween gains its haunted connotation. There's very little known about the true traditions of ancient Samhain because the church, after Christianizing Halloween, the celebration tried west with many other pagan holidays, the traditions and customs were very much forgotten. It seems that the observance of that holiday involved stocking supplies, celebration, slaughtering cattle, and disposing of the bones in bonfires, which in time became known as bonfires. So what happened later days, in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November the 1st as a time to honor all saints. So soon All Saints' Day incorporated all the other traditions. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve and later became like Halloween. And of course, like happens, Halloween evolved into much more than spiritual celebration and became a holiday which we know it as costumes, trick-or-treating, carving all lanterns, gatherings, and eating various treats. There's a long story about jack-o'-lantern, which I'm not good. I hope everybody knows it, so I didn't include it in this presentation. So the rituals of Halloween arrived in the United States in the 19th century when Irish came to North America. The Irish, largely Catholics, continued to observe All Hallows Eve or All Souls Day. But these festivals were now infused with folk traditions such as jack-o'-lantern. In Ireland and Scotland, the term was used, carving for Halloween. But immigrants in North America used the native pumpkin because they found it was much softer and much larger. Actually, the tradition of carving pumpkins came into a common tradition only at the end of the 19th century. And now that I would like to talk more about the pumpkin, the magic of pumpkin. The pumpkin is probably the most recognized symbol of the sowing season and the fall and Thanksgiving in general. Besides being jack-o'-lantern, pumpkins are believed to be connected to the spirit world. Pumpkins with scary faces, now when we call them jack-o'-lantern, were long used to ward off evil spirits. Because of this, carved pumpkins are often associated with protection and dispelling negative energy. Pumpkins are also associated with Hecate, goddess of the night, magic, and the moon. It can be used in spells to strengthen magical gifts and abilities. Hecate is a Greek goddess of supernatural and the moon and the night. In addition to all that, pumpkins are also symbols of gratitude, generosity, harvest, and abundance. Hence, we celebrate Thanksgiving with pumpkins. Pumpkins, especially pumpkin seed, may attract wealth. Example, well, we can set our intentions of for abundance, prosperity, and happiness into a pumpkin, then bake it and use it for pie or a dish, and serve it as a special gratitude dinner, like Thanksgiving. Pumpkins' round orange bodies also represent the abundance of the Mother Goddess and Mother Earth. This fruit is also associated with the Yoruba goddess Oshun. Yoruba people is the southwestern Nigeria. And for those who want to feel more love, money, and fertility, offer this fruit in exchange for wishes. These are just a very few elements and ways to use pumpkin in magical practices or in everyday use. Pumpkins are believed to be linked to mysterious, the unknown, and all kinds of magic. So let's now use the power of a pumpkin in our drawing today. So this is my experiment with pumpkin as I used for this holiday. What I did carrying it. So I was preparing to make it for lunch, to bake it. A pretty small pumpkin, picturesque. And I looked at it and I used all kind of drawings on it as symbols of Halloween. And of course, I incorporated the Neurographic line. As you can see, that was perfect. So anybody would like to try, that's very easy to do. And I still hope that I'm going to wash it clearly and bake it for lunch today or tomorrow. So no waste. It's one of those pumpkins that with a soft skin, Japanese squash that you can use with this skin. It's very soft. Okay. So I'll let you know whether it tastes good after serving such a wonderful holiday season. So I'll set it aside. So a few words about the Neurographica for complete those who know less. We will use two elements of Neurographica. I believe the Neurographic art becomes so popular that there is hardly anyone who doesn't know anything about Neurographica. Neurographica. As you can probably see that Neurographica, this term, copyrighted, combines the two names. One is neuro, connected to everything to do with the brain, neurons, brain cells, and graphica. It's everything to do with the drawings. Brain cell and graphica has anything to do with the drawing. And today specifically, we will use the neurographic line. That's the primary principle and asset of Neurographica method. So by definition, a neurographic line doesn't repeat itself in its every segment and its duration, and we extend it where we do not expect to see it. It's not spontaneous. It's not a free line, because when you're drawing it under these requirements, you have to be fully present. It's like Zen meditation. It's not easy to do it right at the very beginning. So what do you do it? I suggest for complete beginners, just make sure that the line doesn't repeat itself. Yes, there is a direction where we extend it, the general direction from A to B, like a straight line. We make movement, a slight movement with the hand, and draw the line. Why that? Why we're using the neurographic line? Because it doesn't have a pattern. A straight line like this has a pattern. It's predictable, and the mind knows and anticipates and can control it where we can draw it. The same idea is with an ornament. If we draw an ornament, there is a pattern that repeats itself. Because if the pattern doesn't repeat itself, it's not an ornament and it will not look great. And again, the mind, it's a great meditation, but a different one to get in the zone when you continue drawing it. I love drawing ornaments, but it's something else. If we want to get some result from Neurographica from drawing, and results that, because Neurographica combines art, drawing method, and psychology, we want to use the line, this neurographic line, in order to bypass the mind, the logical mind, our rational mind. If the mind doesn't know where we draw it, where the hand is going to draw this line, it can't anticipate. It can't control. And that's used for the method of Neurographica, because we attempt to establish a connection with the subconscious mind, where all our power exists and which governs in most of our life. So how to draw it? Just place your hand and try to draw. This is the very beginning. Not repeating, not falling into the pattern. Just vary the movement of the hand all the time. If you think that it's spontaneous, just let yourself go. Not really. What happens if you just let yourself draw freely? The brain is one of the laziest organ. It will do what is convenient, what is easy for it. It will start eventually draw some pattern, habit, and thus conserving energy. It doesn't want to think. It doesn't want to force yourself to do something unusual. And this will just reinforce what we know and what we think in a particular topic. So the hand will repeating the movement, and you can always observe yourself when you're in the meeting, or just have a long boring conversation of the phone, you automatically draw somewhere on the corner of the paper some kind of repeating pattern, absent-mindedly, but steady and maintaining some pattern. One more point, a very important one, is the principle of rounding. The principle of rounding is the second, I said, very important principle of Neurographica that you can't observe in any other art. If you can see these natural lines in other kinds of art, the rounding is very specific for Neurographica. So for example, we have a line, one line, and the next line intersecting. This creates a corner that could be perceived as because of its nature like negative. So first, there are two reasons. One of them, we don't know whether the two lines connect or not. We're drawing a three-dimensional world. We're depicting the three-dimensional world on two-dimensional piece of paper. And if it exists, like for example, if two lines are like this, like two different planes, like two objects, on paper, they will appear like this. And we do not know whether they're separate or together. So to indicate the connection, and it's very important for in the Neurographica, we do rounding, which is like a small arc and connection. So this is one of the reasons in Neurographica why we do this rounding. Again, the connection, to connect the two lines. So what I do, and that's why felt tip pens are better than thin liners. So I do a small arc here, here as well, and we have four corners actually. There is another second point why we do this rounding. It is much even more important than connecting the lines. It's our association, our connection with the two powerful symbols, specifically the circle and the triangle. The circle is considered a powerful symbol and associated with perfection, infinity, sacred, the sun, the moon. It's considered very positive, and it's very deeply in our mind. It's almost like imprinted very deep in our mind. Triangle is also an ancient symbol because it's observed in nature. And where do we see it in nature? Of course, something that's considered dangerous. Thorns, any sharp object, wild animals, fangs and claws, and even weapons and knives and spears and swords. So instinctively, when we see something sharp, like sharp corner, we shrink inside of us. If, for example, if you see broken glass on the near you, it's unpleasant. You see this sharp corner, it's unpleasant to look at it because of perceived danger, and we can't just overcome it logically. Again, because it's very deep in our primordial mind that bypasses all our logical thinking. So what we do in Neurographica, considering those two elements and two figures, we round. So again, two lines connect connection forms a corner triangle, and if we do use our own hand to round, to change this element that we perceive as dangerous, and we use our own hand to change it into something else that could be considered as a circle, because our mind completes, and instead of an arc, we automatically imagine our mind completes and sees a positive circle. So our own hand creates this suspicious sign into a positive soft element. And I'm sure many of you who tried this rounding experienced transformation and positive effect and calmness when this element was done. Yeah, please, we do not need to draw a circle, but it's something that the mind quite often completes. So that's it's psychologically. And with this, we can start drawing. Please prepare your paper, drawing paper, and we will begin the story of pumpkin and Halloween. Just imagine like the first, and we will use the element of two elements. The elements of the circle, because the circle is a powerful image and it's very positive. And that's why the round pumpkin is a positive symbol. Everything round creates this idea of positive energy for us. Whether you're drawing yourself or whether you're drawing a project or idea, please think about the theme. So it's general theme for today. What we're trying to do is to diffuse some negative, and maybe people disconnect from people, from ideas in our life, let it go, and create a safe place. The pumpkin, the circle, or rather that symbolize the circle, will represent our safe place. You can position yourself. Think about it. Select the figure and just indicate anywhere on the page this pumpkin first. Just let your hand. Okay. Just very, very light. Use light. You can use a liner for now, because we're going to work with it and we maybe make it bigger. Okay, so this is you and your safe place, or it could be your it could be your project. Think about what you would like to disconnect from. What it could be events, something in your memory, something that concerns you, whether it's a person or an idea, a concept or memories, or someone from the past. Sometimes when we think of people who left this life, but we are connected, but we can't help thinking about them. So that also works. And I will draw just figure. I trust my hand to draw those shapes that represent those elements. One of them, it's a person, and it's just bothering me with emails and connections. So I don't respond, but it's something. It's not anything in my life, but for the sake of this exercise, I will use it. Just emails irritates and such a thing. So I will. It's small, but kind of I put it here. So when I think about it, what else? What else I want to disconnect from? Of course, I have some maybe doubts, maybe fears, uncertainty, kind of a smaller concept. It's not nothing in particular, nothing that I can think of. And I indicate it by shape here, but use any free space. Use it in relation to your drawing. Kind of. Now a couple more. Of course, there are some elements that represent some hidden operations of something I don't even know. I can't even name them. Maybe some hidden fears, something from an unseen world that I don't know. They're not monsters, but they could be like from memory, from past. A couple more. I don't know really what they are, so I'll just position them here. So what I'm doing now, this element is in Neurographica is known as a diffusing in the field, and we will use the neurographic lines to first to disconnect. So what we do, we draw, and I can use a stronger marker lines because these lines will become more permanent. First, I will use a line to disconnect, to separate myself from those elements. I'm thinking about this size. Yeah, probably I'm satisfied by now. You can also, there's a way how you can increase this. But let's first separate myself from those elements. So next, I use the elements which is called diffusing in the field, and I draw the lines that I can use. I go over the figures, and those so-called figures, my fears, I incorporate in the lines. So they become, instead of remaining like closed shapes, closed lines as figures, they become just lines. The lines that they become just lines. And eventually they will become filled, a space, background around us. So the idea is visually, I have to eliminate all those images. And of course, my lines can go through the entire space. So the goal here is to get rid of those old lines using new lines. I can draw more lines from the other side. And then they become the lines on their background. These lines will just indicate our surroundings, neither good or bad. It's just what environment that we have around us. So now I'm thinking whether I created this safe space for myself. I wonder whether I would like to increase myself, my size, my safe space. The pumpkin, the so-called pumpkin. I can use this. Now that I have more area, maybe I can feel like I would like to grow my pumpkin. Yeah. It's a little bit oval, but you know, circle, oval is also is an element as a circle, and it's perfect for this pumpkin, the present to represent the pumpkin. So here's my new space. You can add as many lines as you need. Also, some lines can go from the pumpkin. It's what we call in Neurographica connecting the figure, which is the element, and the bag. It's what we call in Neurographica connecting the figure, the image, with the background, with the environment. Because we're not alone, we're always connected with surroundings. So, and also what I suggest this now, we can start rounding the corners. Not all of them, but let's see the one that you feel you need to round right now, and feel and see how experience this rounding and see how you feel. I will take a smaller a marker that's easy to work with. The rounding a final. If you wonder why I do the second lines, I do draw lines like more than one line. It's my it's part of it is my style. There is also a notion in Neurographica: the more lines, the better. It created with strengthening the impression that we're creating right now on paper. I didn't round all the corners, but I can feel it like it's settling, like my mind is settling down. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't anxious to begin with, but when you start, just it's a small thing like teaching online. It's very live to an audience. There is some element of, if not anxiety, but like unrest, I would say, light. Yes? But now I'm feeling very much more comfortable, and I didn't even round all the corners. So what I also suggest, if now we can be more creative, we do a few rounding. If you experience, please let me know. And anybody, you can type in the chat if you have any experienced any interesting effects from this exercise. If you have many intersections, like for example in my drawing I might finish them later. Take my time. And now I would like to look and pay attention to my pumpkin, so-called my safe space. Maybe like element that offers me an idea of protection. With this, you can use, before we start drawing, I will suggest, here you can be creative. You can imagine that pumpkin has around, it has a quite a texture on the skin. It has also additional rounds like this coming. You can be creative. You can decorate. If some of you know Zentangle, you can decorate it with Zentangle. If you want to incorporate some elements that you associate with protection, with safety, with positive, with love, with peace, anything you feel like including, you're welcome to draw. You're also welcome to draw on this space figures that you see. Maybe you can see a circle that you would like to include one of those. Like for example, I can see round. I may add a round to strengthen my positive effect of that pumpkin. I'll show what I do. I might just include it. Okay, like this. Oh, perfect. Maybe it will be like one of the pumpkins, additional pumpkins. We can look at these lines and elements like from ancient elements that represent a positive. For example, a star, a pentagram, that could associated with ancient sign, or crosses, or the moon, or additional circles. You can be as much as creative with this space to change the first impression. The first that was something negative, and now we're transforming it into positive. So we take this energy from negative or perceived as negative and turn it using it for positive. And I'm looking at this pumpkin. So what I associate, but probably I mentioned like any sign, you're welcome to follow me, but at the same time, you may be as creative as possible. I think I associate protection with the hamsar, the ancient symbol of hamsar of protection. And hamsar is something like the hand, also known as the hand of Miriam or the hand of Fatima. Okay, and I will use also the pumpkin. Here's the additional circles to create the pumpkin, that the surface of the pumpkin. This rounds on the pumpkin skin. And of course, for everything else, I'm using the Neurographic line, that uneven, wavy line. Another rounds on the pumpkin. And I round, and I do my rounding the corners, and new corners on the lines, on the pumpkin. And I strengthen the figure of the pumpkin with additional lines. I can even draw and use a thicker marker. This is my hamsar. You can see more rounds here. And around the new corners. So another element of any neurographic drawing is interconnectedness. So all the elements are connected with them, kind of a line, and they're not exist on its own. That's the idea that everything is connected in the universe. We don't see those lines, but they exist. So create a stronger space. So I emphasize this side, my pumpkin, my safe space. It's something I didn't even mention that it represents abundance and fertility and plenitude. Let's our life be abundant with joy. Many ideas can come later. You can add other elements, but for now I would like to start applying color. Color, yes. First I will start, what I'm going to start. First I will start with the background. With the idea with the background, if we want to dissolve everything, diffuse those elements in the background that used to be there, I suggest using blue, dark blue, which represents the element of water. The element of water will just let it go with the water, letting it go. So what I will first, I will use dark color to create the dark background, like the night. And also the element of dark blue that represents the element of water and letting it go with the water, dissolving it into the background. So the entire background, first I will use it for the pumpkin, around the pumpkin. You have to leave it purple, the dark green, also good. I change the drawing just to make it easier. The blue color, the element of water, according to this theory of the 5 elements, also represents depth and wisdom. think I have enough of this dark blue. Now I can pay attention to have my pumpkin to stand out. And I can go with a bright color. So of course, we're thinking about the most contrast is pumpkin. It's everything to do with yellow, orange, red. Yellow, the color of the sun, but also the color of clarity, vision. In Neurographica, traditionally we use coloring pencils. So the element of Graphica, but also using the line. So there's an idea behind it that why we use pencils. Of course, you can draw with pastel, with paint, various painting medium. What I'm using is watercolor pencils. So they combine the two elements of pencil, and then I turn it into more smooth, more like a not so much painting, but a combination of art, painting, and pencils. And I love using my Inktense pencils. That's they produce when applied moisture is applied, they produce very vibrant, strong colors. I really love using them. And I like red. I am thinking of adding more elements, but this is just a preliminary sketch. As I said, we will not be able to finish the entire drawing. As I still, for me, I would like to work a little bit more on the line, a little bit more on the background, and of course to create a nice symbol of protection and pumpkin. And possibly to draw it so it will resemble a pumpkin. So this process will continue. So what I do, I take time when I look at lines, whether as I'm drawing, as I start applying colors and uniting all the drawing with the colors and creating a stronger impression by applying colors, I also look at the image itself, the lines, whether I need to apply more lines. Sometimes I feel like I need to add more lines. No problem, please add more lines. Colors, you may change colors, please apply more colors. And I'm blending the colors here. So now I'm feeling that when it's too much on the background, like I have too much color, like too much blue. So what I'm thinking now, I might think of other colors on the background. Like for example, this one is circle, maybe something else. So I will add, again, I will add maybe a little bit, maybe there's a smaller pumpkin, something else, a different fruit, a different vegetable. So this, what outside is also represent the background, and the background and surroundings could be also positive. So that's why I will color this, create a companion pumpkin. Yes, why I decided, because I felt like it was too much blue, too cold, too dark. I don't know what it represents, but I felt like adding this element. So in place of something, that corner that I was doubt, something else, I have another uh, circle, a positive element, and also with element the colors, bright colors. So another one circle, whether I want to turn it as this color, I'm not sure. I might use just lighter shade of blue and green. So first, how I draw, I make a lighter, like applying pencils, but without too much pressure. And then when I'm satisfied with my color selection, I apply it like full strength. You see, with Neurographica drawings, it evolves. It's a process that evolves. I don't know what to expect. I started Of course, I practiced before. I had a couple drawings that I did during the week, drawing these elements, preparing and thinking. And I still, my third drawing that I'm doing now turned differently than what I did as a practice drawing. So it's always this element in Neurographic, always this element of surprise. As we're drawing, the process we're looking, it affects us. So we're affecting it by drawing it, but also it affects us. So the process is unpredictable and surprising. And in case if I don't like drawing, and it's suggested in general in Neurographic, I do not abandon it. Keep on working it as long as you need to make it something that you like, or if you don't like, but at least neutral. So right now I'm not sure, and I will continue working on it until the point I accept it fully and I like it. Well, sometimes drawing, I like drawing from the very beginning. Sometimes I work after I start liking them, after working with them and spending with them enough time. So this is like our life. We just can't erase or press backspace or delete and start again. This is what we have, and it's something that we work with. So I'll start with the lines, then the colors. Now I feel like I need to go back to the lines and do something with the lines, maybe a little bit more rounding, maybe adding finer lines. So the recording of this class will be available online on YouTube later, maybe in a couple of days. I need to edit it before placing it on YouTube, and it will also include my final drawing. When I finish it, I take a photo and I will include it in the video. So the class, it was really, could you, the symbolism of the color green. Oh, the green color I mentioned uh, represents the element of wood. It's anything to do with creativity, with curiosity, with lightness, with movement, with wind, and also the energy of wind. Wood with the energy of wind, an element of wood. The ancient Chinese system of the theory of colors. I have course, the NeuroColor course that I taught early this year, and it's available in recordings. So if anybody is interested, please write to me directly, and it's available. My recorded courses, they're not live, but they're available in two versions, two options. One option is light, with recordings only. It's one price, typically like $75 per class. And another option is with a support. It's when you get recordings, but I also You submit your assignments, and I will review your assignments. I will answer your questions, and we'll have a video review of your assignments. But I also can tell you a question and answer session with you on Zoom. So that's a different price. So with the light option, you are on your own, and you do whatever you want with your assignment. But if you want something more in depth and to hear my feedback, then that's a regular option. It's a different price. And also, a price of my courses depends on how many courses you would like. It's like one standalone course is one price, and if a bundle, if you have two or more courses, that will be, of course, a combination. It depends on how many courses. This year, I'm finishing teaching all the current courses that were included in the program of Neurographic instructor. It's everything that I learned. So I'm finishing the 8 different courses, advanced courses, in addition to the basic user course. Again, that package is available as a course for light version without support, and as a with reviews. There are 2 different prices. I don't know whether I'm going to teach the advanced courses again live next year. Maybe the mandala. I was asked whether I teach mandala course. Yes, I'm planning to offer the Neuro Mandala course live, like this on Zoom in January. That are my plans in January. So because I received many requests about the mandala class, and that includes there are 8 different techniques that I'm planning to include in that course. Everything that I could combine, and in relation to NeuroGraphica. So it's a NeuroGraphica course, and it's required a completion of the basic user course is required to take the advanced courses, because I will not talk about anything about how to draw the lines, how to do roundings, and the basic algorithm, which is the formula, in all the advanced courses. Not a word about it, or just using the previous knowledge. So that's, and of course, I'm planning to offer 3 sessions at least twice a month. Whatever feels good for you to include in this drawing, please. And thank you so much, and we'll see each other soon in a couple of weeks online again. Thank you very much. All the best.